My name is Gerhard Schwartner, and we are welcoming Jordan Rouse, who's the CEO of Set to Close. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, Gerhard. Really appreciate that.
So, as the CEO of a technology slash training company, what do you see right now? What are sales leaders struggling with most?
Well, that's a broad question, but we'll focus mainly on the B2B space, which is where we focus, where we build systems primarily and process for these companies. So I would say where most people struggle right now is accurately being able to forecast their pipelines. That would be a very standout one. Number two, information overload. In the time of AI and all the adaptations that are coming at them, they can't keep up. When you're working in the business, you can't work on it, and vice versa. And it's just become higher pace than it ever has before. There's more change, there's more dynamics, there's more competition arising in short order because AI has reduced the cost of barrier of entry into many industries. So these are some of the things that are paramount. And I would say third is actually a people problem. I would say that people are good salespeople are a good revenue generators, for lack of better words, because almost modern salespeople are marketers and salespeople together, and they live hand in hand. They're hard to find, and they're even harder to keep.
Yeah. Well, I want to reflect on that on all three issues. I think the first one is really very clear in the last 5 years. The percentage of forecasted deals that close is 47%, and the odds at winning at the craps table in Las Vegas is higher. So it's really a crapshoot. The second, when you look at the information highway, there are a lot of exits that people take and they get lost on the highway. They get sidetracked. They cannot focus. They're not in the present moment. They're not in the here and now. They're not able to respond to customer expectations in real time because their information highway is screwed up with either poor technology or poor processes. And I think the third issue is people that I agree with you. Good salespeople are hard to find. They're hard to keep. And I think one of the reasons why people leave companies is because they do not have that infrastructure in the organization that allows them to play their highest level game. And that's what Set to Close is really designed to do. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, that's a dynamic conundrum is how do we allow salespeople the creativity that they need, but then keep them in a really well-structured system? So most of the things that we confront in the market, and we work mainly in small and medium business, in between a couple million and about 100 million in size is usually our wheelhouse. So I'll speak to that predominantly as we go through. So what we see is usually you have a lot of entrepreneurs that power a lot of their own sales in that dynamic. They own the company and they have the relationships and they have key foundational relationships, but their issue is maintaining it and then adding net new. Like, how do you do that and build a system around it? So they'll have high performers and underperformers, but there's not a lot of tracking going on. They've usually rode on good relationships, good operational principles. They have lots of value to add in their companies, but they haven't matured their outreach for a decade or more. And that's because they could, but the market's changing. Competition is global. Things are moving more quickly. So we come in and we give them a framework. This is where we find out where they are and where they want to go. This is most important, and who's on the bus and where they're sitting and why. And we're understanding that whole good to great old-fashioned mentality about what this business is and its trajectories and the vision for it. I think it's very paramount. Lots of consultants will come in and just try to solve an individualized problem. But the difficulty when you work in a system, if you pull one lever, it affects other levers. And you have to understand a business as a system. And I think that that's the key principle that most people are skipping. They want these individual band-aids, but you can't just wear all band-aids if you need surgery. That doesn't do the same thing. So where we come in is we come implement a really good tracking system, a CRM for lack of better words, that integrates sales and marketing and gives you visibility on what moves to make, and can take all your indicators instead of just lagging in monthly reviews and annual reviews. You can see up to date, up to minute indicators to help you make changes in your business and jump towards market trends. So all the messaging that you're sending out, hey, we know this is working this week with this market segment, and this is why. And then here's where the industry is going based on this leadership. And that can all be supplied to sales now without going to 100 different sources, automated right on the left-hand side in the CRM, created with AI to draw these things up. So the verifiable abilities is not just how much more you close, but the amount of volume you can deal with. Because as you know, most salespeople spend not enough time selling. So the advantage of these systems is more time selling. You get more time to be active within a system, and that changes the game. If I can get someone from 50 actions a day to 100, your sales go up, and that's it. And then we work on your conversions. How is it cycled from one to the next to the next? And then people get excited because they're like, oh my gosh, the needle moved this much. We got this many more leads. This many more deals are going in. And if you want to amplify closing, amplify volume. That's step one. And then you're tracking. It's like filling a funnel from the top, and you learn to make it wider as you put things in it.
Yeah.
Very simple.
And you accelerate the clock speed of business.
That's right. Right. And at the same time as we make things easier for salespeople to push higher numbers, how do we
Yeah.
keep salespeople? We get them more money. That's it. If I can make my salesperson double the money in a year, they're gonna stay. Right. And there's no secret around how salespeople are motivated. They're in sales because they like to make money, the vast majority of them.
And that's why sales to close innovation leads to sales acceleration.
Yeah, and that's why we name the company Set to Close, like set the deal
Right.
all the way to close. And those are the priority functions of what we achieve with customers. We take them from the initialization all the way through the conversion. But as you know, the best customers are residual customers,
Yeah.
and reselling to them and keeping them involved. And that's where forecasting really comes in. How do we serve them? How do we upsell them? And so many people let it go after they get them in the gate. And that's where the problem is. That's why you're not sustaining long term. And then you go back to the base root of how they started their businesses. Let's say in manufacturing or distribution, they poured all their time into the relationship and understanding of those original main customers, really over servicing them, over delivering, being there reactively for their needs. And you can build systems with these standards now that force your salespeople to follow those habits. And that
Yeah.
allows you to have that success with all these new types of customers. Because I remember when I was growing up, it was all about service, the customer's always right, all these slogans, right, when I was young. And I understand that people have moved away a little bit, but the core context of service hasn't changed. And you can put any fancy tool on it you want, it doesn't change the good old-fashioned rules of sales.
So can you share a customer success story that's recent, that's in your mind?
Well, there's a multitude. Give me a dissertation you like to hear from manufacturing to tech to distribution. Give me an idea of what you want to hear from.
Well, I think that technology companies are hurting more than others at this point. And they're struggling with renewals. So maybe that would be a good story to share.
Yeah, so technology companies live and die by their monthly recurring revenues. This is how it is. So the way to gear this up in those channels is to understand where have their leads come from, why have they tracked. It's mainly going back to what works in market and messaging. So you have to go base sales line with them, and too often they don't actually know how to sell what they are. There's a GTM or a go to market mix up in terms of their messaging and their target market. So first off, you have to make sure that that's correct, because if you're adding volume to a system that has holes in it, it doesn't work. So fundamentally, what we have done, like, and I also I'm not going to give names out there, but we've developed systems lately for people that got a multitude of channels going, but allowed us to test messaging very quickly in iteration. And this took the company in question. We got them when they were just young, 500,000. And in the last couple of years, we've turned them into like nearly a $6 million enterprise. And so that's tremendous growth in their inside technology. And it's all about that monthly recurring movement. And so at the start, it was like, how do we get it in? And then how do we keep it and make sure that people are seeing the value that we're bringing them, and where are the hiccups? So, a lot of the time it switches from that. It's like, let's pour gas on the fire, and then let's look at how do we sustain it in the long run? What fuel builds it the best? And how do you give value? But what most SaaS companies forget to realize, and this is where a good system can point it out, is when you're reselling to people and you have them in a consistent service program, where are people falling off and why? And how do I identify that? And how do I give them the right perception to know what we're actually doing? Because a lot of people leave service providers or SaaS providers because they don't see the value, or they can't attribute it properly. So your ability to demonstrate your ongoing value is just as important as it is up front in these tech systems. And people are skipping it. It's like new business development. How do we get through the door? You should just be able to hold it, team. And you got to take and teach. And this is what we did with their company. We taught people how to sell in their accounts team, their campaign managers, things like this that are going in within these frameworks. We're teaching them how to sell, and we're putting them into it. So they're following process and structure just like the regular salespeople. Because usually you can hire good, what we call cowboy salespeople out the front to get a lot of people in the door in SaaS. We know these individuals, high energy, they have attention devoted to higher dimensions. And then the transition to the campaign manager, the problem is the first person was super high energy, and the second person talks like this and tries to lead you through on an account. There's not a marrying of values or energy there. And so you'll turn people over. So it's like keeping that narrative and that energy level and that delivery consistent is important as well.
So there's another issue in tech companies where you have marketing, sales, and customer success, and usually they operate in silos. So what does your solution do to help orchestrate all those efforts in a way that everybody plays from the same sheet of music?
Yeah, so the number one thing, and everyone's heard it a lot lately, is putting sales and marketing together in one boat. They live and they die together, similar KPIs, similar systems. So first off, you have to reward them the right way. And they have to be in constant communication, working collaboratively, not as siloed departments. That's very important. So you need a great CRM like HubSpot, like Salesforce, to be able to actively orchestrate that. There are others, but those are the primary two that integrate really well across platforms. And then you can put sales, marketing, and service together, and you can see your dashboards, and they're all relating quickly, and they can be very responsive to customer because it's orchestrated in a single system, which is now dynamically evolving actually to give advice about how to move things. That's the next step in the AI game, is actually a sales manager telling you should do this, you should look here, and directing your efforts on best practice. And so that's what's coming down the pipe. So get ready, people. And the best sales managers in the future will be the best coaches, the best interpersonal people, because the data will be nearly perfect that arrives on their desk. And that's where it's going. So how do we help is the big question. We kind of align to get people into working together, to remove the silos of that departmentary old style of doing things. And how do we do it? We listen, we learn, we remove barriers of technology of what's held them back before. We try to remove dissonance from their mind and the systems that they've built previously, and institute things that actually help them. And then we start showing them how to collaborate together, what's important, why it's important. And we share similar KPIs, and we build those together for them. And so that's what we'll come in and do. A lot of ours isn't just putting a system in place and making it work in a fancy way. It's the interpersonal ability to make people engage with the system. Here's the sad fact: less than a quarter of people engage with their CRM in the sales world. I know that that's wild. That's the nature of the business. You get these fancy new tools. Oh, it doesn't work for me or they didn't have training or helped along, and then they disengage. And when someone disengages, it's really hard to bring them home.
Right. So as companies move through different phases of growth, they need different resources and different systems and strategies in order to navigate that particular growth step. And when companies are in the entrepreneurial phase, everybody sells. In the second stage, it subdivides. And then in the third stage is really the most critical, where organizations um, experience lower sales and higher cost. And that's
Mhm.
where a lot of companies don't make it. So what's the secret to growing in that particular stage, in your opinion?
Oh, wow. This is a combination of things, but if I'm going to give you a ranking. The number one is your relationships. Relationships will never change. And I'm a sales guy. It's your partnerships with other people, how you pour into others. They will support you in good times or bad. So, you know, have a great close circle that you work with that refers you and you refer them and do a darn good job by them. That's number one. It will never change, I don't think, in the history of sales and technologies that come out. Number two is have a good technological system you know how to scale. As I said, it's all about levers. And if I know what lever to pull when things are difficult in one spot to move the whole machine forward, then I have some form of control. And then with that control, have really good data and clarity. So make sure that system is providing you good instant reporting. So then you have control and clarity and strong relationships as the ultimate backup there. And that will just produce better reaction to customer. You'll have better processes, you'll have more closing of deals, because most deals are falling off in the modern system because people are overwhelmed and they don't know how to organize themselves. So if you have a system with automation and backup so things can't fall through the cracks, then you start winning. Then your deal flow forecast can be 80%, 90%, right? Going above that, you have to be really, really good. But if you're in those zones, then you're making money, right? That 80-20 rules are a really good one to go with.
Well, Jordan, I want to thank you for giving us so much clarity and so much gold that we all can use and harvest to improve sales operations, to improve revenues, and to improve people. And I hope that people will go to your website. What's the best part of your website where you can get instant gratification?
Go to the homepage. We build it easy and simple nowadays, so you can hit the button, schedule a meeting, and chat directly with us. And you can go down. We've evolved everything, and there's case studies, there's learning, blogs on all the different topics that you may be interested in that we feed back through to LinkedIn. And make sure you just subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter as well. We're always releasing things every week about upcoming things that are really helping push manufacturing, distribution, and tech forward in the B2B sales world.
Just to be clear, the URL is set, the number two, and then close, set2close.com.
No, .io.
Sorry,
.io.
that's why I asked.
Yeah, set the number
That's
two close.io. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jordan. Head over to set2close.io right now and schedule a meeting. It's all about conversations that create commerce, right?
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time, your heart. Thank you.